We might need it, we will see. So obviously I'm not a hologram, here face to face. Just a few notes before I introduce our dean. It's actually the very first time we're doing this kind of event under this fantastic audience, so bear with us, be patient. Innovations sometimes have these things, you have to hope everything goes fine. You're experimenting with us, you're co-creating with us. So let me introduce you with no further delay, our very own Dean, Francisco Veloso. He's not only our Dean, but actually his research is on tech innovation, so how timely that is. Please welcome Francisco Veloso.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm really here to welcome you to this fantastic situation, opportunity, event, the first holographic university lecture in the world. How cool can that be? And it's really wonderful because, we're here. We have assembled, students, faculty, professional staff, our community of the business school at Imperial. We're also live streaming this to our, world community, just curious people, but also our students, our partners that are also sharing with this. And this is very, very exciting for us because having this lecture today really embodies many of the critical things of Imperial College Business School. First is innovation. We are a school that is at the forefront of understanding innovation and entrepreneurship. So how else could we do that if we don't do that ourselves on trying to leverage new technologies, solutions, opportunities to try what it is to drive the future of business education. And this holographic, lecture today is one wonderful example of doing that. But this is part of our strategy. Just like through our fantastic EdTech team, we started doing digital education, launched a global online MBA that has been extremely successful, business analytics online. Now the holographic lecture is another step. And is another step on this experimentation. Because if you want to be at the forefront, as Leila mentioned, you need to try different things. And try different things that can augment our experience, right? It's not about replacing people. We're going to have people here today as well. But it's about enabling a connectivity that is not possible to do if you don't use these digital technologies. But in doing that in a way that creates a presence, as you will see, one of the amazing things of the holographic experience is the sense of presence that is very, very different when you're watching a video. And this is when we're talking about a lecture, when we're talking about having a professor on stage, somebody that's imparting knowledge. The presence is a very important part of what it is to have good lectures, good education, a good learning experience. And therefore, the hologram brings that. And that is something that hopefully you will feel tonight. And you will feel, as we start to deploy this technology, to use across a variety of experiments. And it is very critical to think about this as augmenting our sets of possibility. Just like having a digital lecture, seeing a video enables us to do certain things that do not replace your decision to come and study here with us, for example. It's the same thing with the hologram. It allows us to do different, novel things and to recombine what it is to do business education at the forefront of knowledge in a different way. The other reason why I'm very excited about this lecture tonight is about the topic. Because just like innovation, entrepreneurship, digital is very much about who we are and what we want to be in the future, so is diversity and inclusion. So how could it not be such a great topic to bring to our conversation today about the role of women in technology? And so the other part of this event tonight, which is to really use this fantastic technology to bring from around here and from far apart different views about the role of women in tech. And so this is as exciting as having the possibility of doing this with people here on stage as well as people remotely. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our speakers, our guests, both the ones that are already here, present in the first row, as well as some that may be at this time watching through our live video and that will soon be coming here to the hologram to participate. And so thank you all for coming as well, those that are here and those that are remotely. I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting, enlightening, and innovative holographic experience. Welcome to Imperial College Business School, and thank you very much.
Okay. Great. God. Okay, now that you're all deaf and I have your attention, let me introduce you our very first speaker of the night. So as Francisco was mentioning, some of our speakers today will be here on stage. Marilee will be here, actually. Others will connect, and others couldn't make it, but actually have recorded a message from us. So we are going to experience the technology and the face-to-face presence in all different ways. So it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome Marilee Nika, who works at the product assistant team at at Google. She previously was at Facebook here in Europe, where she also studied at the same time a PhD here at Imperial. So it's one of our alumni. She's won several awards, including not only the excellent awards from Imperial, but also the Google 2018 Women Outstanding Award and the Wise Influence Award in 2015 for her work as a Women in Tech ambassador. She has several TEDx talk to date and received, as I was mentioning, the recognition from not only our community, but actually the global community around her work. So please welcome Marilee on stage.
Can you see me? Can you hear me? This is amazing. I can see you, I can hear you, and I'm currently in Los Angeles. This is wonderful. I don't need to say anything because I think this on its own, it's just an incredible, incredible experience. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I did a PhD and a master's at Imperial College in London, and I am I have great feelings about Imperial College. So first of all, I will ask you all to close your eyes. Please close your eyes. I know this is exciting. I know it's a hologram, but please close your eyes. I promise to you, it's worth it. Right, now that your eyes are closed, I want you all to imagine an Imperial College student. I want you to imagine this Imperial College student at Huxley Building, at the lab, working at 11 p.m. at night because they have an exam, coding in front of a computer, coding in C++. Now that you have this picture in your head, open your eyes. Please raise your hand if the student you imagined was male. Raise your hands. All right, yeah, that's a lot of hands. Please raise your hands if the student you imagined was a male wearing a hoodie. Okay. Now, please raise your hand if the student that you imagine looks like me. Okay. So if you did not raise your hand like now, you need to exit the room. No, I'm kidding. You don't need to exit the room. But I get this a lot. A lot of people ask me, what do you do? I say I work for Google in California. I have a PhD in computing science. And they say, no, seriously, what do you do? And then I say, no, this is what I do. I've studied computer science. I'm passionate about tech. I love it. And then they say, then you must be some form of a genius. And I say, no, I work in tech, but I'm not a genius. Truth is, I am in tech. I studied at this incredible college, Imperial College London. I now work for Google. I used to be a student at Imperial College London. I used to sit at these seats over there. I was the student that studied until 10:58 p.m. at night because, I don't know if you know this, because if you stay until 11 p.m., all doors are locked and you need to be escorted out by security. So I got close to the security because of this thing. But yes, I used to be this person. I now work for Google, for the assistant team. I leverage my engineering skills, my math skills, and my creativity in order to build incredible products for the users. And guess what? I love it. I've loved every step in my career working in tech. I love gadgets. I love nerdy jokes. I loved every second of what it is that I do. And I'm really not a genius. I'm just a minority. And we need more women in tech. We need more diversity. So while growing up, I was fortunate to have incredible parents. They're actually watching this right now, and I'm sure they're very, very excited. I'm humbled and thankful for the opportunities and experiences that Imperial College gave me. I am very, very thankful to my supervisor, my PhD supervisor. He's also there, William Nottenveld, because everyone in my life when I was studying encouraged me to be ambitious and to fulfill my potential. And what I'm here to tell you is that I want you also to fulfill your potential. For decades, people have been dreaming about the future. And they had movies like in 1977, Star Wars came out, where we saw Leia coming out as a hologram from R2-D2. Well, guess what? Now holograms are here, right? You can see me. I can move my hands like this. You can see everything. I can probably stand up, walk back and forth. We have online education, we have robots, we have smart homes, we have self-driving cars. So technology is fulfilling its potential. And I'm telling this to you via a hologram. How wonderful is this? So technology, in order to take it one step further, in order to work on artificial intelligence and make things even more of higher quality, we need more diverse talent. We need women in tech. So what I'm here to tell you is that if you love engineering, amazing. Go for it, be a programmer, it's great. But working in tech doesn't mean you are going to work in a dark room with a computer coding all day. You can have a very challenging work, an impactful career, if you work in tech. But it doesn't mean you need to code all day. There are so many careers you can do. You can be a product manager, like I am. You can be a technical program manager, making sure that what you want to create is actually being built when it should be built. You can be a program manager. You can work in partnerships. You can be a data analyst, a data scientist. You can do anything. The world is your oyster. And tech has all these different careers. If you still aren't sure if tech is for you or if that's what you want to do, that's fine. That's totally fine too. I was 25 when I realized that economics was not what I wanted to do. Because my undergrad was in economics. It was completely different. And I thought it was too late. I thought that, okay, my career is over. I will never follow my dream. But then someone talked to me about Imperial College London and about a master's in computing science for people that hadn't studied computer science. And of course, I jumped right onto it, and I loved it. And the master's turned into a PhD. The PhD turned into an internship at Facebook, and then the internship turned into a full-time job at Google in Silicon Valley. It's wonderful where life can take you if you follow your dream and follow your passion. A lot of people say, I want to be tech. I have no idea what I want to do. And that's fine too. My advice there is create your own pantheon of people you admire. Go to conferences. Find people that you just relate to, that seem inspiring, that seem motivating, and just walk up to them and say, I admire you. What is it that you do? What is your daily life like? I want to know more. You would be surprised what 5 minutes could do to you and your career. 5 minutes having coffee with someone that inspires you. Whole careers have been shaped like this. And don't be shy. Being shy is not going to get you anywhere. I used to be shy, and now I'm here talking to you via hologram, and it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. This is so, so exciting. And I know what some people may be thinking right now. They may be thinking, it's too late for me to enter tech. It's not. Some people may be thinking, I'm not a genius. I'm not good enough to work in tech. You are a genius. You are qualified. If you're in this room right now, it means you're qualified because you are worth it. Imperial College has such a high bar. If you pass this bar, and trust me, you did not pass this bar by luck. I know that every requirements and eligibility is set in such a way as to no mistakes being made. There is a thing called the imposter syndrome. A lot of people suffer from that. They think they're imposters in their profession or whatever it is they do. They think they were chosen because of luck. But once you realize that this syndrome exists and you look it up, you'll say, oh, maybe I feel this because I have this syndrome, but I'm actually worth it. So I know that a lot of people think this way, but again, if you find role models and mentors and see what they do and what kind of technology they're creating, you will say, oh, I should have done this all along. This is wonderful. Right, so a lot of people ask me, why work in tech? Well, apart from the fact that I'm now a hologram talking to you, right? Tech is the mecca of research, development, and innovation. Tech isn't only about coming up with new ideas. It's also about making them work. And trust me, seeing an idea come into life, for example, like the hologram or anything we've been seeing in the movies or self-driving cars, it's wonderful. Some people do this as a hobby. Why not have a career out of it, right? And of course, there are many challenges. Like in tech, you will never be bored. Things will break. The effort when something succeeds is great. Right? You learn a lot. But when you make a mistake, you learn even more. So it's really rewarding to have challenges in your work. You grow as a professional, you learn, and you make sure that the same mistakes are not repeated again so that you can move on and get on with your life. Working in tech means high demand. So your skills are transferable across many different products, companies, from huge corporations like banks or tech companies to startups. Well, the other thing that not a lot of people say, tech pays. And I know it's important, right? It's important to get paid for what you do. And tech is out there. So it's a great career to pursue. The other thing that I love about tech is work-life balance. You can work from home sometimes. You can work twice per week from home. You can be based wherever and still create code, have meetings with people. I actually can see a future where all product development, everything is going to happen on the cloud. So we won't even need to be physically meeting. I think this is something amazing about tech. And I don't know which other professions you can say this about. Here's some advice I wish I heard when I was sitting at Imperial College. Well, first of all, there are no shortcuts. You need to put yourself in a position where if luck strikes, you can see the opportunity and take advantage of it. What does that mean? You need to do the groundwork. If you want to be a chemist, you need to start by being in the chemistry lab and doing the groundwork, like cleaning the tubes, this type of thing. If you want to be in tech, you need to learn about architecture. You need to do some basic coding. You can't avoid that. There are no shortcuts. But trust me, it can be fun. And as I said, it's never too late to start. Try to find an area of something that you love to do and just do it. It's a lot easier to work hard and prepared when you love what you're doing. Because if you don't love, if you're not passionate about tech, I completely understand, and you can do whatever else. But if you love tech, spend the time needed to get into this field. It's absolutely worth it. As I said, with every effort, you learn a lot, and with every mistake and failure, you will learn even more. I failed so many times in my career, but every time I failed, I came out of it a bit stronger and stronger. And now if I fail on anything, like an exercise, an exam, a product, a code, whatever, I know how to deal with it, and I know what I need to keep from it, and how to wrap it up and keep it in the past and then move on with my life. The other thing that's very important is that you should win the battles you're in before you take new battles on. What does that mean? So a fresh mind that is exposed to innovation, technology, and new ideas goes crazy with all the new and exciting things they can do. But you need to first finish the new and exciting things you're doing right now before you move on to the next step of the new exciting ideas. So you need to be managing your workload. Don't get too much under your sleeve because you're not going to do any of them efficiently or in high quality delivery. So choose the battles. Make sure you balance your own workload. Make friends. Now that you're at Imperial College, actually when I was at Imperial College, my best friends then are now living all over the world, or they may randomly call me and visit me, and it's just wonderful. What we went through at Imperial has created a bond that is going to be always there for us. A lot of people met their were co-founders of Imperial College. They created startups. Magic Pony got acquired by Twitter. There are so many examples. So colleges like Imperial can help you create alliances, partnerships, friendships that will last forever and that are likely to give something back, like valuable. The other thing I wanted to say is that it's very important to create communities. So I've created 3 or 4 communities for women in tech. Every time I felt alone and I needed to talk to people that were like-minded, I would just jump in, create a Facebook event, or just add posters at Imperial College. And people that actually liked my jokes came to these events. And we had so much fun. We became colleagues. We mentored each other. We prepared for interviews. So circles, communities, if communities don't exist, go in there and create them. It's very, very, very important. So if you can find, I think it all comes down to, if you can find something you're really passionate about, jump right on it. Because if you're doing something you're passionate about and add your talent on top of it, boom, you're unstoppable. You can achieve anything in the world. This is very, very important. And I am very confident that if you're already at Imperial College, it means that you have followed your passion. I'm very confident that throughout your careers, you will keep going after your dreams and that you will keep inspiring the current generation and the generations to come, and that you as well will fulfill your potential. And thank you so much. It's incredible that I'm here as a hologram. This is the greatest honor of all. This is fantastic. I would love to meet anyone in person as well. I travel to London very, very often, but I'm open to any questions or anything I can do to help. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you so much. So we promised you an interactive experience, and it could be that we've just recorded her. We have a few people who are looking behind the screens. She's really real. So we have time for one question from the audience. I think we have someone. Yeah, there we go, Paul.
Hello. Oh, hello. Hi, Paul Rouse, Executive MBA. Thank you so much for that. It was really, really fascinating. Big tech has had a rough couple of months or few months. Google in particular has had a pretty rough few weeks. And even today, you've got people protesting, or Googlers protesting all over the world about a chap who's just left. If you were CEO for a day, what policy would you change that you knew would stay changed when you left that position?
Thank you. Thank you for this question. I completely understand the concerns, but I'm here to inspire the next generation to follow their dreams and enter tech. I don't think I'm in any position to answer this type of questions. So if there are any questions around tech and pursuing careers there, I'd be more than happy to.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so, so much, Marilee. That's been very, very inspiring. We're now going to say bye, or good morning to you, I assume. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fantastic effects. So our next speaker can actually not be here with us live, but she has recorded a message. Cristina Valles describes herself as a human Venn diagram. Her career and her personal interest has always been in the intersection between business, arts, and technology. She's currently Vice President of Growth at Bionic, an advisory firm that installs startup ecosystems for large enterprises. And she's also built the host of The Limit Does Not Exist, a Forbes podcast. So please welcome Cristina Valles.
I also spent it curled up in a corner with a math book, teaching myself several years ahead of my peers. I also spent it at Michigan State University in the computer science department where my mother was an administrative assistant, and I could nose around and see what the professors were doing. One of my earliest memories was getting paid $5 to be a research subject as they were testing out the earliest forms of biometric scanning. They used a laser to scan my fingerprints, and I thought that was pretty cool. we got to take home one of the first laptops that didn't have a hard drive. It had 2 floppy disks where you had to boot the computer on one side and then run programs off of the other floppy drive. Things like Snake or early green screen computer games. But it got me hooked. And as a teenager, I taught myself HTML and CSS so that I could figure out what was going on these websites we were looking at. When I went to university, I couldn't decide between my loves, music and theater, and math and computer science. So I chose not to choose. And I double majored in math and theater with minors in music and physics. But when it came time to get a job, I had to choose. And my first inclination was to go into tech. But I got this great role at the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and I couldn't say no. It was only a few weeks into that job when I realized there was an opportunity to do some things a little differently. I realized that you could automate a lot of my job, that we could use data and algorithms to schedule rehearsals better and reduce overtime and really kind of make the entire process more efficient. So one weekend, I sat at home and I wrote the spec of a 28-page document to outline a computer program that I wanted to build that would effectively put me out of a job. I went in on a Monday morning, showed it to my boss. Needless to say, I was 22 and knew nothing about how big organizations worked, and it was not well received. But it did show me that there was a place for computer science and technology even in the arts, even in grand opera. From there, I went to business school, and I met a friend who was just as tall as I was and had the same problems I did, finding clothes that fit. So after we graduated from our MBA, we started a fashion tech company called Quincy Apparel. We looked into the data and the assumptions that were underlying how clothes were made and mass production processes, and we discovered that a lot of sizes were based off of data taken in the 1940s when the US government was ordering nursing uniforms during World War II. And back then, women were a B-cup bra size on average and about 5'3" and wore girdles, so they had an hourglass hip-to-waist ratio. Needless to say, that is not the case anymore. In fact, the average American woman has a C-cup or larger, which was a fun fact to recite to venture capital investors when we were out fundraising. But we built an algorithm for a new approach to sizing, and we launched this company and got venture backing for it. Now, the company ended up failing, not because we didn't have a product people loved, but because of a whole bunch of operational issues, which I share with you because I want you to know that failing is okay, as long as you're learning something. If you're not failing every once in a while, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. Failing is not some big stamp on your reputation that you are not good enough. In fact, I probably learned more from the 2 years of building and running and then shutting down my startup than I did in business school. After Quincy, I founded a computer science program at the American Museum of Natural History called Bridge Up STEM. It was an after-school program for 14, 15, 16-year-old girls to teach them computer science and programming through the lens of science, to use their natural interest in dinosaurs and astrophysics and climate change in order to learn tools like Python and SQL and data visualization. It employed data sets and projects and questions from around the museum, and it was project-based and really social. Now, when I founded this program, it was really the first time I had spent any meaningful length of time around teenage girls. When I was a teenage girl, I was a total weirdo and didn't have many friends and mostly hung out with adults. So you can imagine this was a bit of a shock. Now, the program could only accommodate about 16 girls in a session, and we had over 100 applications every time. So we decided to use group interviews to get a sense of who was interested and who would be collaborative with their fellow students. And one of the things we asked them to do was to bring in a project that they had made that they were proud of and share it with the other girls. And what was surprising was that every single girl, in every single time we ran these interviews, brought in something artistic. They brought in a poem or a drawing or a video of a dance they choreographed or the score to a piano sonata they had composed or a sculpture or piece of pottery. This was amazing. They were applying to a computer science program at a natural science museum, and they didn't think it was contradictory to bring in something artistic to demonstrate what they were capable of. I loved it, but I was so surprised. I mean, I thought I was the only kind of math and artsy girl weirdo, and it turns out there's a whole bunch of us. So I stumbled on some research that actually proves this is more often the case than not. In 2012, the Girl Scouts of America wanted to do a study on the gender gap in STEM. And they ended up producing a report called Generation STEM that had a couple of interesting findings. First, it revealed that 74% of American girls are interested in the careers and subjects of STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the same proportion as boys. But second, it revealed a couple of key differences between the boys and the girls that they studied. One was that the girls were interested in how they would use what they were learning to make an impact in the world. They wanted to know how it applied to the things that they cared about, whereas the boys were more interested in just learning. The second thing that they found was that girls were also interested in history, social studies, English, literature, the arts, more often than boys were. There's actually a whole body of research that shows that girls and boys have a pretty similar aptitude in math, but that girls have a distinct advantage in reading and writing. All of which just means that girls who are interested in STEM don't look like boys who are interested in STEM. But that doesn't mean they can't do it or won't be successful at it. I actually found two professors' research that show this multiplicity of interests that girls have is a feature, not a bug. A professor at Harvard Business School named Clay Christensen studies the profiles of people who are truly innovative for his book, The Innovator's DNA. There's another professor at Wharton School of Business called Adam Grant, and he studied the same thing, the profiles of people who came up with truly original ideas for his book, Originals. What they both found was at the core of their traits for these innovative people was this idea of associating, the ability to connect seemingly disparate ideas. Nearly 2 years ago, a friend shared a YouTube video with me called How I Do Math. It was created and produced by an actress out in LA named Kate Scott Campbell to encourage girls to love math in whatever way made sense for them. She was tall and a redhead and loved the arts and math just like I did, so I needed to meet her. I sent her an email, and just a few weeks later, I was on a plane to Los Angeles to spend the day with her. I showed her my tattoo of a Fibonacci spiral overlaid with a print of Kandinsky, and she showed me the web series she created called Tutored, about her experience as a math tutor. We realized we were not alone in our weird interdisciplinariness, and we suspected there were even more of us out there. So we started a podcast called The Limit Does Not Exist, and it celebrates the entire world of people who break the mold of focusing on just one thing and instead embrace their multiplicity of interests. We interviewed Danielle Feinberg, a computer scientist turned filmmaker who used algorithms to build animations at Pixar Studios. We interviewed Janet Martinez, who combined her experience with circuitry and a love of fashion to run a startup called Mueca that builds soft-circuit, Internet of Technology-enabled fabrics. And an artist, an interactive storyteller named Sasha Samoshina, who builds interactive experiences for NASA. Our goal is to change what people see in their mind's eye when they think of a technologist or an engineer or a scientist. Equally so, we're trying to change how people see themselves. Now, I'm not going to pretend that every company or organization out there is a great place to be a woman in tech. I would have to ignore the headlines and my experiences and the experiences of many of my friends to say that. But what I can say with confidence is that there are companies and managers and teams that will support you, that do want to see you succeed, and will help mentor and grow you over time. I want to give you permission to leave if a company or a manager isn't the right fit. I want to give you permission to fail. I want you to be able to say, something isn't right, and I can't be all of myself here, and I want to try somewhere else, and just do it. I want you to keep looking until you find your tribe. I want you to know with certainty that if you want to be part of the tech world, then you should be, and that no one gets to be a gatekeeper and decide for you. Most companies in the world are now technology-enabled companies, and most problems in society were either created by technology or can be solved by it, or both. In any case, we need a diverse group of people who are willing to take on these problems, and that includes me, and it also includes you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. That was amazing words. So now we're going to move over to our panel. Before I do that, I'm going to remember our hashtag. If you want to spread the word, if you want to make sure that we can get the word around, please, Imperial means business, hashtag, that's what we use. So I'm going to now introduce you to our the person who's going to chair the panel today. Diane Morgan is, does it work well? Yes. Diane Morgan, there we go. Diane Morgan has had one of the most fascinating careers that I actually know. She's been hugely successful in many business schools, also a global career. She's worked in London, in New York. She's a person not afraid of change. She's also a person who stands up for her values and for the things she believes in. So now she joined recently, I think 1 year ago, Trilogy, one of these companies that are now helping women around the world to be more familiar with technology. Personally, and also professionally, she's part of the Forte Foundation, where she spends a lot of time inspiring other women, helping them, getting into higher education, and also being a role model for them. Must be me, I'm sorry about that. So please let me introduce you to Diane Morgan. Sorry, my mic.
Should we go up?
Yeah.
Yep, yeah. All right. This is going to be the challenge. Here we go. All right.
It's the first challenge accomplished.
Can you sit down in a seat? Work.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you, Layla, for the warm introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, to be back at Imperial College Business School, and to be able to host this great panel. So we have a couple of panelists here. We have a couple of panelists who are joining us via hologram from New York. And this is supposed to be the inside story, women in tech. But when I look at the backgrounds of these fantastic women that are going to speak with you tonight, it could be the inside story in finance, or the inside story in entrepreneurship, or the inside story in social access. So I think this is a really interesting way to think about the business that women get into, how tech infiltrates all of that, and then the expertise that these women have in a variety of different areas and subjects that they share, and they're going to share with us tonight. So we have a series of questions. We'll be with you for about 30 minutes. I work for Trilogy Education Services, which is run by entrepreneurs. I have a group of entrepreneurs here, so I have by no means thinking that I'm going to control this panel, which is exactly what we want. We want to have some nice discussion and debate, and hopefully we'll have some time for a few questions at the end of it. So we're focusing on the business of business, and that happens to be tech, and then the various expertise that the women have. So I'm going to ask each of them to just do a quick introduction, just who they are, what their role is, and what their education is, you know, what they had studied before they got to where they are. So I will, I think I'm starting with Rashma here.
Okay.
And then we'll head over to Marta, and then we'll go to New York.
So my name is Reshma Sahoni. I am co-founder and managing partner at Seed Camp. We are a seed stage fund operating across Europe, based in London, and generally we'll invest really anywhere globally. Education-wise, you can tell by my accent, very American, but I moved from India when I was young purely for educational opportunities to the US, and so I studied undergrad. I did a unique thing, at the time at least, which was both an engineering degree and an undergrad Wharton degree at University of Pennsylvania, and then I came to Europe to INSEAD to do my MBA. So, very much of a science, engineering, and business background.
Great. Thanks. Marta?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Marta Kropinska. I'm a third-time founder, psychologist by education, and I'm looking forward to being able to delve into that a little bit more because as we're talking about technology and business, fundamentally we're doing it with people and for people, and I have, since the first startup that I started with my best friend in my bedroom at the age of 19, have really everything that I know about both business and technology learned through that interaction with other people and through drawing knowledge from them. My first startup started at 19 back in Poland, where I'm from. It failed by the age I was 20. By the time I was 22, moved to New York. We have a big sort of New York lovers crew here tonight, clearly. And then in 2012, I co-founded a business called Asimo that then went on to raise over $70 million in funding, got over 1 million customers who today can send money back home for a fraction of a cost that Western Union would charge them. Anywhere in 26 countries in Europe, sending money to anywhere in the world. 6 months ago, I co-founded a new startup called freeup.io. And very interestingly, I'm just trying to raise money from you. So, this is how small the world is.
Good timing.
Great, welcome to both of you. Okay, so we're going to turn to our panelists in New York who are going to appear. We've got Angela and Tracy joining us. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Hi.
Great. So we're just doing our introductions. Hopefully you're able to hear us okay. Nice to see you both, and welcome to Imperial College.
And welcome to New York.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Tracy. If you could do an introduction of who you are, what you're doing, what your education background was.
Sure. I'll start with my education background. I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia, which is next door to University of Pennsylvania. My background is retail management and marketing, probably as far away from tech as you can get. I worked in the retail industry, went into sales, owned my own business for a while, and then got into a sales position at a tech company. Currently, what I do is I am one of the early founders of a company called Chariot Solutions. I'm the CMO, and Chariot Solutions is a software consulting firm. My experience from that led me to found a nonprofit called Tech Girls, which is, sorry, there's a little bit of reverb here, so.
There is.
So Tech Girls is a nonprofit to help middle school girls embrace the power of technology for their future careers. And it came out of my experience working with 50 men for the last 16 years.
Great, thank you. Can you hear us okay? Do we need to fix the reverb on your side at all?
It's hard, it's a little.
We'll get through it.
Yeah.
We're holograms. It's really cool.
Holograms, right? So, well, we can hear you fine. So thank you for that. Angela, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi. It's great to be here, and it's great to meet everyone. Thank you for hosting, and thank you for having me. My name is Angelus Arrestee. My background is actually also education and business. I have a dual degree from the University of Michigan, so similar in some ways. I started my career on the banking and finance side of things, primarily in the credit risk, so really understanding how people perform as they get different credit products and who is likely to pay back and not pay back. I got involved with technology about 8 years ago, co-founded a company called Orchard Platform, raised close to $60 million for that venture and scaled it to millions of dollars worth of revenue, and I'm now the CEO of a company called Climb Credit. We're a partner of Trilogies, so I know Diane through that as well. We offer low-cost, affordable, and efficient financing to people who are attending career and vocational type education. So our mission is to expand access to quality education, and we do that by providing financing to programs that are typically underserved.
Great, thank you. And just the small world connection. Angela and I didn't know each other before we were both going to be on the panel, and I think just the use of technology and being able to talk to each other and talk before we got on the panel has been great. And we have this whole connection going on on the panel. The New York thing is just a random, we didn't expect that. But we have this series of questions, so I'm going to ask Marta for the first question. There's kind of for the leaders of the future and the leaders of today, you hear about this division. So should you be a technologist with business acumen, or should you be a business strategist that knows technology? Do you have an opinion on that, and what do you think that would you think that actually exists, or?
I mean, I love the question, and I love that you come out of this assumption of, when we talk about the leaders of today or the leaders of the future. I generally am of the opinion that if we're trying to build things that have never been done before, then how do we hire or get people that have experience in it? So I think if we're going into a conversation in this view of, should you be a business strategist with tech or a techie with business, I think fundamentally it should go back to what the first speaker tonight said, which was this passion for what you're trying to build and then being able to attack it from the best possible angle. So what I like to talk about is that technology is just a tool, but what matters is what you do with it. In my personal case, I have definitely been a person who was passionate about business and then saw that technology was that thing that helped me build it when I was first 19 and broke and stupid, and then 23 and broke and stupid. And I'm probably maybe less broke, but I'm still very much stupid, doing it for the third time. So I think what is most important is that we actually work together to make sure that this duality of business and tech exists in all of us if we want to be successful individuals. So whether it is that one has experience and passion for business, but wants to learn about technology, spends time with technologists, learns from technologists, has conversations with technologists to learn how to talk their language and how to be able to make the most of what technology offers. Or on the other hand, that we have techies who, rather than just being interested in the cool stuff that they can code and do, think about why they're doing it, what is the goal behind what they're building, and also I think a huge opportunity and responsibility on our part as business people to have those conversations with them and make sure that we take them with us on that journey, that we don't just create rooms filled with techies who sort of just code, but are not invited to the team meeting and don't hear about the latest release. So I think that for as long as there is a connection between business and tech, whether it's one way or the other, I think, that coupled with passion for the end result, I think that's the path to success.
Great, thanks. And I'm interested, Angela, maybe how you would describe when you were talking about Climb. Would you describe it as a tech company or a finance company, kind of building on what Marta was saying? I'll repeat it if you want. So when you're thinking about Climb and kind of thinking about what Marta just said, do you describe Climb as a tech company or a finance company, or does it not matter? Do you need to make that distinction?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question, and one that I think about a lot and get asked about a lot. The reality is that Climb's product is both technology and finance. So what we're providing to our end customer, the students, is a financing product, right? It's a loan in most cases. But we deliver it through technology. And so I think at the end of the day, to build a scalable business that can add value throughout an ecosystem, tech is one of the easiest and probably most fun things to leverage in order to do that. So as an example, one of the things that Climb has put a lot of time and energy into is how to make our loan application very, very easy and simple for students who are approaching it through their schools. That isn't necessarily something that's revolutionary on its surface, but what you learn is that if students are coming to our application from different places or are learning different types of vocations, they might have different needs in terms of how they are taken through that application. And if you leverage technology and think about your end customers and how they interact with your technology, you can continue to make it better. And I would actually say my background, I started on the technology side. So I was working as sort of a quantitative analyst with very much my focus for the first 10 years of my career was about how do I make the best risk models that best precisely address our current kind of credit environment and how we want our loans to perform at whatever bank I was working at. And as I started to learn more about business, I got so much better at that part of my job because I understood that it's not just about the technical problem you're trying to solve, but it's also about how the business in the end makes money, acquires customers, and the cost of all of that. And so I think when you think about this question about tech versus business, it's really, you should know where you're coming from, what your orientation is. But at some point in your career, especially if you want to become an executive within an organization, you're going to have to understand both. And so that's for me has been a great learning experience, but also to always remember kind of where I orient towards.
Great. And then you started talking about your career, Angela, in finance and what you were doing. What is it that's making you give access the other side? Over here.
Oh, wait, the other side. Sorry, that was my fault.
They were telling me to look the other way.
That was my fault.
I don't know if you can see your audience smiling. They're straight ahead, but it's all about
good. Can we see that high?
What were some of the core beliefs that you had, or the expertise when you were looking at your career in finance that kind of gave you this direction to start your own business? You were at Amex and you were at Citi. What was the thing that then said, I need to go out and do it on my own with Orchard and then with Climb?
I mean, part of it was, working at Amex and Citi were both great experiences, but I always wanted to have more of an impact. Like that was something in the back of my mind in every role that I was in that I felt like even at Citi when I was rising up the ranks, a decision I made would have such a tiny little impact on that size of a company. And so when I had the opportunity, came up with the idea for Orchard, found some people that wanted to do it with me, I think what got me over the edge was the idea that I could have an opportunity to have a huge impact. And when you start your own company, you're the whole thing. And I loved it. I loved the fact that every day when I went into work, I could do a few things, and those things could change the direction of the organization that I was working in. And so that, I think, was sort of what I thought would happen, and then it was what did happen.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had a thought on the nature of the question. I think it's such an interesting question. It never gets asked. And I like it a lot because I think each of us has such personal biases about what we studied and, what we're doing now. We're talking a lot about combining technology and business. And I think, one thing for the audience, and especially I think people who are in universities, you're more the future probably than any of us are. And I think it's really important to understand context and personal journeys and personal biases. So it's great to ask that question because I think you understand about each of us a little bit more. Because one of the things that's my pet peeve is sort of the hero worshiping that goes on in you know, the venture industry or in the entrepreneur industry. And you can't take it at face value. You really need to understand what are the driving factors and what we studied and what we chose to do, and that really informs our worldview. Like for that first question, I would say, you know, thank God I studied engineering. It just gave me such a fundamental basis for how I think about life and how I conduct pretty much everything I do. And then business was life skills I gained on top, right? So again, these are personal biases, and they are such an integral part of you know, how you develop your career and how you become who you are. So less than the answer of actually those beliefs.
No, I mean, I think that's a part of it in terms of this nature of experience that you all have, and that you're kind of pulling from these different areas. And Tracy, I saw you nodding when Reshma was talking about that. If you want to jump in and maybe talk about how that impacted you in terms of your beliefs and starting Tech Girls.
So I just think in general that we take all of everything that we've learned and we need to use that in business or in life. That I think that in school, my background and my career have taken so many twists and turns, and I talk to women especially about this, that if you had told me so many years ago that I would be in the tech industry, I thought that I was going to be a buyer at, you know, a large retail company. So I think in general, being open to opportunities and new experiences, to keep learning, I think is really important. And I think that the later in life, and I'm sorry I didn't do this earlier, was to take more chances. And that's one of the things that I think is important.
And when you're kind of, you know, you said you didn't expect to be in tech. What's the thing that has surprised you most? This is a question for you, Tracy, in terms of,
Sure.
you know, if you thought you were going to be in a completely different direction, and now you're kind of defining that you're in tech and you're leading this organization in tech. What's the thing that's really caught you by surprise?
Well, there's a bunch of things. I actually wrote some stuff down, but I think one of the things is how, you know, I don't write code, but I'm a technologist. For my for-profit company, it's really important for me to understand what's happening in the software industry, tools, technologies, because without it, I can't help guide messaging, partnerships, any of those things. So I have to be able to talk the talk. I think it's really important to understand that. And I loved how Marta was saying that it's important to understand that technology is a tool to create innovation. And what we're seeing a lot more these days than when we started our business, and what I see from our girls at Tech Girls, is the understanding that technology can solve problems. Whether they're social enterprise problems or something as simple for the girls as they wanted to communicate something about a hobby that they have and how they could use a blog or video to talk about that. They're really getting the fact that technology allows them to do that. So it's around solving problems. From the Chariot standpoint, what we're beginning to see is really interesting ideas coming from unexpected sources. We work with a hospital, and they're asking their doctors to come and put forward ideas that could have technology background, like using Alexa in the hospital, in the operating room. So those are some of the things that are surprising me, and that's what keeps me in the industry, because it's moving so quickly. And what 10 years ago was new is now almost like the grandfather or the great-grandfather. So you can't stand still. And that, for me, is the best part of it.
Great. Actually, I don't know if you could see Marta in the other direction from where you're both looking now. She was kind of nodding and laughing, and I think let's have a little bit of fun with our panel. Like it's nice if you guys can kind of talk to Angela and Tracy and questions that you have, and let's play with the technology. Marta, was there something?
Can I tell an anecdote about the grandfather and the great grandfather? So I was literally in the office on Monday, and we're very new. We have a tech team of 3. The CTO built funding circle, so sort of big guy, big name, 18 years in tech. He is another senior dev with whom he's worked for like 12 years. And 2 weeks ago, we hired a junior who's 21 years old, just graduated, and basically the guys were having a planning session talking about what the priorities are for the week, and Toons, my co-founder, goes, oh, so yeah, so Kane's going to focus on building the app because he knows this technology best. But of course he does, because we're building the app and the technology that came out last year. And these other 2, you know, they can have the biggest names in the industry, but again, they're not going to be best placed to code in that particular technology. And I think this is the thing that I love about this world the most, because I think as much as I would still really sort of double down on this, actually technology-enabled business or business fundamentally is what are we building, and it's not about the technology itself, but what technology or the way that we build business in 21st century has done is that you don't have to be climbing a corporate ladder for 30 years to get to a position of influence or power. The previous speaker talked about how maybe not every organization is going to be a good organization to work at for a female or a female in tech. Well, the thing is, we can now go and build our businesses, and you know, there are wonderful investors like SeedCamp who are going to listen to us when we have great ideas. I mean, this is the most exciting thing, that you don't have to be I apologize, you don't have to be a straight white male with 30 years of experience and daddy's money. Like, this is so exciting. And you can be 21 and say, hey, boss, this is my first job, and I know this technology better than you, and I'll build it 3 times faster.
Great. And your funding, is that an appeal for funding, right? Going on right here, live at Imperial.
Exactly. Great pitch. Yeah, no, and I think the other kind of taking that next step is every industry is being touched by technology as a tool, right? So yes. I think if you're in this room, it doesn't matter what you're looking to build. You will have to, whether you embrace it or fight against it, technology will impact your business. And so again, I think you either really, you embrace it, bring it on, and see how you can take advantage from technology in a fundamental way, because that's what probably has been the most surprising for us over the last decade of investing. Is I think we started in a more niche, internet type of a specific, very internet type of businesses to be funding, and it's everywhere now. I mean, energy, women's health, mental health, personalized medicine, a lot of health, obviously, but finance, travel. I mean, it's literally in everything you want to potentially build. So, it's
the lots of opportunity
Diane,
there. Yes.
Diane, if you don't mind me interrupting, just to go off of that point. In the next 6 years, 77% of all industries will be tech-enabled. So when we think about that, it's important for women to be part of this innovation economy and not be afraid of using technology. It's important for our careers.
Yeah. Really good point. I wish this was a 2-hour feature-length film, because I can't believe we're at the end of our time, but I would love to be able to have just one question from the audience. You have a microphone? Okay, great. Maybe you stand up so Angela and Tracy can see you.
Can you guys hear me? Great. So my name is India. Hi. I'm a full-time MBA, and I also, to add to the weird New York connection, am from New York. So a question I had is that I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, and I also kind of on behalf of all the other aspiring female entrepreneurs here at Imperial College, I'm just curious, my question's for Marta and for Tracy, Angela, sorry. You guys successfully raised funding for your businesses. So knowing that the venture capital space can be like a boys' club, can you give us some tips on how you've successfully secured funding?
Do you want to go first, or?
Oh, well, yeah, I can go first. Sorry.
Still a little disorienting.
Oh, now I'm looking at you, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think and actually, since we have a venture capitalist or an investor on the stage, she should probably say something as well. But what I've found has helped in being successful is making sure you really understand the person that you're talking to and why they should invest in your business. I think I've made the mistake, we all make mistakes, but I've made the mistake of knowing why I would want to invest in my business and why I think it's so good, but not necessarily taking the time to put myself in the shoes of the person I'm talking to, understand what their investment thesis is, what are the other companies that they've invested in, why did they make those investments, and treating it really as a relationship that you're trying to build as opposed to a transaction you're trying to close. That being said, 90% of the time you're going to be across the table from a bunch of guys. And so I've found that it doesn't make sense for me to hide my femininity or the fact that I'm a woman. And so I try and own that from the beginning. And if I get a sense that the fact that I'm a woman, a mother, I guess those are two main things that define me as a woman, but if I'm either of those things and that's going to be a problem to the person across the table, then I don't really want them as an investor anyway. Yeah. And so my advice would be those two things. Own it, put it out there. Don't try and say that you're going to be different than who you are. Suss that out and figure out what they're looking for and make sure that you fit into that thesis in some way. And you have a reasonable explanation as to why.
I couldn't agree more. I think there's this huge this relationship point is really important, and I can't wait to hear from you, because obviously you're seeing this relationship from the other end. But definitely being extremely well prepared, understanding who you're talking to, this definitely massively helps. I think there is an argument where we have to think about the fact that when you're already having this conversation, this is already a big win, because the first question is, how do you get through the door? And very often being young, being new means that you really need to network yourself into this situation, and you need to look for somebody who's going to introduce you. I guess there are funds that now say that they're happy to take cold emails or cold approaches rather than invitations, but I'd say probably in this sort of conversion funnel there are two challenges. One is, how do we get through the door, and the other one is, how do we then speak to the investor in a way that is so compelling that they want to support us over the long period of time in building that business. One thing that I would say that is women specific, if I may, and something that I have personally experienced throughout my journey, is in that being a female leader or a female founder, I think I'm really looking forward to the investment community slightly, perhaps having more women. Again, great that you're here, yes. But sort of there are different data points, but the average is that 5% of VC money goes to women, 5% of investors are women. As a result, probably those people that you're talking to might understand your business or you less, but also they'd have unconscious biases that would perhaps make them judge you. And something that I've tried and done was just put it out there. And I would talk about, when there is an opportunity, talk about it. And once you've talked about the business, also talk about my leadership credo and the type of business that I want to build. And I would talk about the fact that, it's really hard, because you would want your founder to be like really tough and make the most for your money and be really hard and chip on the shoulder, but also I'm a woman, so you expect me to be caring and nurturing, and it's so hard to be both of those things. And I think I've cheekily kind of used it to make sure that they know that this is what's happening in their head, because they've either classified me as a bitch or they classified me as somebody who's soft. So there are challenges that we face. But I think increasingly, maybe as more women go into VC or more women succeed as founders, the fact that those biases exist and sometimes prevent us from succeeding this is just more common knowledge, and as a result, it's easier to fight.
Great. I think it's just so obvious that the last word is going to be with you, right?
Yeah, I have like a schizophrenic answer to that too. That, on the one side of on venture capital, absolutely. I mean, I think it's terrible how few women are in VC positions, and especially partner positions, to actually make investment decisions. That's changing, and I think partly 10 years ago, I was in a very male venture organization, and it didn't work, and I split off to start our own fund, right? And I think you're seeing Albright in London again, and a lot of these venture organizations that are splitting off, and women who are saying, you know what, I can actually raise my own fund and do this with the partnership of like-minded men or women. To that, then, as facing entrepreneurs, mostly obviously I face male entrepreneurs and then a few female as well. I really don't like the constant sort of female card playing, and I think it's more about as Trace or Angela said, I think at the beginning, is find common ground. And if that happens to be, I'm a mom as well, great, that's our common ground. But actually, there might be other 10 things that we have more in common. And I think treat me as an individual as I treat you as an individual, and do your homework. And I think women are amazing. Women founders especially are amazing at doing their homework. And look up on LinkedIn, look up on Twitter. I'm constantly tweeting about my interests and sort of personal issues and things, whatever that strikes my fancy, right? So I think it's easier and easier to get to know that human being across the table from you. So I've never really sort of, I always say that I was worried about being ethnic more than I was worried about being a woman and being an immigrant, and so I don't really obsess about that issue so much. I think it's about being prepared and being ambitious and knowing what the people, again, whether it's angels or VCs or whoever across the table from you, really want out of your business. And we also have a process, a blind process, where we take in applications without any introductions, and half the process is through introduction. So we meet a lot of people. We've never, we have no idea until they step into the room. We've just read their application. So no sort of judgment can be formed on that. And it just, in that meeting, it's all about sort of how are we going to deliver on building a business together.
Wow, great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need to unfortunately wrap it up, but I'd first like to thank all of our panelists. Thank you for being so open and demonstrating what we love. We're at a university. You talked about learning and experimentation and change and innovation, so thank you so much. And then I'd like to thank Imperial College and the Business School, because how awesome to launch this new technology focused on women in tech. So how are women going to get attention in business? Is great institutions like Imperial College launching this brand new technology and then using this platform with women to host it. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to the audience for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not much more to say, besides that the microphone doesn't like me. I'll go this way. I actually just want to thank you. It's been every word so inspirational. I mean, I've been writing down things that I definitely want to share with my kids and with my students. I want to thank the audience as well. You saw it first. You are experiencing it live, and it's cold, and we definitely have to work on the lighting. We know that. But holograms aside, which are great technologies and obviously give us the opportunity of having New York live here today, actually, let's focus on the message. Every word they said, take it home, think about that. I mean, this has been so inspirational. We'll definitely bring you back. We'll hope to make more of these events. Thank you so much, and a big applause for everyone here. Thank you so much. And now we're going to have this woozy effect that they do. We'll send you the video so that you can see how you disappear in style. Okay. I want one of those. Thank you. There's still a bit of, I think, cocktails over there, so network, as we always say in the business school.
Yeah, I know.
Great.